Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
And I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health.
Join us as we have fun making the weird shit a normal part of your everyday life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. Today we have with us Rebecca Donnelly. She has been involved in the healing arts for almost 40 years and is the current owner of Blue Green Acupuncture and Bodywork, which is a collection of independent healers. Her work is a hybrid of modalities, including acupuncture, moxa, touch, essential oils, and sound healing. In addition to her one on one healing, Rebecca teaches a dance and fitness class called Nia and offers monthly group acupuncture and sound healing sessions designed for deep rest. Thank you for coming and joining with us today, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the show. You have a lot of different modalities under your belt. Can you talk to us about how you got started into it and what was that journey into all of those different things?
Yeah, as Trish said, I started early. I was in the midst of college and was just treading water through college, had no specific goals. And at some point, I think it was one of my siblings said, "You'd be great at doing massage." And somehow it was just like, yes, that's it. This was in the mid 80s, and there weren't a lot of people doing that. But she was in California. So anyway, it really felt right. I finished college and where I ended up coming to live after exploring the world a little bit. I came back to Baltimore and it turned out the massage school was right close to the house. So I dove in, and then in full disclosure, you can edit this, but I literally was fired from every job I tried, whether it was waitressing or whether it was being in an office or like I just couldn't handle a certain level of stress. So when I found massage, I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And I'm good at it. And it just, my confidence continued to grow and my opportunities continued to grow. I started teaching massage in Texas at a pretty big school there, the Lauderstein Conway Massage School. And I think it was during that time I started really getting interested in the Asian styles of body work. So I went out to California and studied acupressure and shiatsu and the styles of massage that worked with meridians, which I don't, maybe not all the listeners are aware of what that is. So I can describe that later, but the type of energy that Asian bodywork addresses. So that's where that love came in, the Asian styles. And then it was like, I have a hard time doing body work all day. I had this hybrid of teaching and doing body work, but it was still tiring. And I thought I'm pretty interested in acupuncture for that reason, for that just that this is something I can do for a long time. And it's fascinating. It was just so fascinating. Began to look for schools and ended up coming back east to go to what was then Thai Sophia. Yeah, and the dance piece came, I think, from I've always been dancing. I've always taken classes. I did modern in college and then was very involved in like contact improv and things like that in Texas. I came back here and no movement at all through acupuncture school, got married, had a baby, and then I landed in a NIA class and I was like, oh, this feels so good to move again. There was only one teacher at that time, and I was like, I'll do this. I'll learn how to do this. So that's where that piece came in. Lastly, the sound is pretty new to me. It's blossoming right now. A lot of people are doing these sound healing sessions. And one of my colleagues who's brilliant with sound, he plays a gazillion instruments, and he was like, let's do this. Get some bowls. Let's do sound baths. It's been a little over a year, and I'm just learning and engaging, and I got a certificate in it. It's just a beautiful thing to be able to add into my acupuncture or for a family member or anything. It's just been a great.
So, Rebecca, you just mentioned that you got fired from every job that you had, and then you found massage. You're like, I can do this. I find that actually very interesting because you're a business owner now. You
Yeah.
own the space, you own a studio, and most business owners, they all agree that owning your own business is a lot harder than being an employee. So I'd like to know what do you think shifted? I'm not sure exactly when you opened your practice, but what shifted when you were like young and in your 20s and just none of these jobs worked because you felt like your body couldn't handle that stress. But
Yeah.
now at some point this shifted where you're able to handle so much stress, you're taking on the business of your own practice.
Yeah, that's really the backstory is that I was suffering from depression, my mom's bipolar. I think I was always looking for some kind of balance and healing for my spirit and mental health. And that's really what was driving my curiosity around all these healing modalities. I was healing as I was doing it. I My chi and my energy was getting stronger, but also I credit my SSRI so much. For me, I'm one of those people that it was just profoundly life changing. Did that in my 30s after a long time of suffering and no regrets. It's just been it was like one of those parting of the clouds. And it was like, oh, this is how other people do life. It doesn't have to be so heavy. Yeah. That was a big shift for me to be able to handle more stress in my life. But yeah, and then I just continued on the journey of learning more and just constantly seeking balance. And I feel like that's helped me get stronger. I've never been able to like work and burn out. I'm always like to have this really as much balance as I can find in the midst of raising children and having a business and having my parents passing. We all have been through all these major stressors, but yeah, I feel like a really different person than when I was young. That makes sense.
And you're talking to 2 formerly burned out nurses.
Mm.
So, when you say you couldn't just go and then you described all of those things that you were doing, I'm like, "Excuse me, but you were just go, running a business, being a mom, having children." That is go. It may
Yeah.
not necessarily be in the traditional sense, but still going. Looking at different healing modalities, some speak to you more than others. Some seem to fit into what's going on in your life than others. And it sounds as you have journeyed through your life, different modalities have come to you and you've learned them. I'm very curious about Nia because I find for myself having a physical outlet or a physical aspect to healing really makes a big difference for myself. Can you tell us what Nia is? Besides, I'm just picturing some big dance party, but I think there's probably a lot more to it than that. So, can you tell me, like, what exactly is it and how does it
Yeah.
work?
So as I mentioned, there's three different dance arts, there's three different martial arts, and there's three different healing arts. Coming into a Nia class, you will experience different we will begin at the beginning really slow. We will build our way up. There will be punching and making noise and kicks and blocks and ways that we can address agitated energy, angry energy. For me, that part feels really good, particularly I think as you were asking me about how does it relate to female, a lot of women are drawn to it. Men come to class as well, but it's mostly women. And I think anyone who has trouble expressing themselves, it feels really powerful to use your body in that way. And then there's the joyful, just let yourself go moments as well. So there's free dance, there's really digging into expressing your own way of moving, which I find to be incredibly healing and just beautiful because it is absolutely unique to each person's body. Then towards the end, there's more of a yoga, and we come back down, stretching, come back down into stillness. There's almost always a focus of the class. So it might be something simple like we're going to focus on our feet, or it might be we're going to focus on opening our heart. So it could be something physical or it could be more of an idea. But that way we keep the mindfulness part in it as we're moving, as we're jamming out and having fun. We're constantly coming back to a focus that brings us back to the present. And it's just like really also just a huge non judgmental zone. Like everyone really, I've had so many people say, I don't have rhythm or I'm not a dancer or whatever it is. And then they're like, I felt totally comfortable. Like it was great. I hope that's one of the things I offer as a teacher is just a really safe place to explore by figuring out how you want to move. So there's
Is
some
there
choreography, there's some free dance, and
is there
it's
music or do you use the bowls and sound healing instruments? How
fun
does
to
that
m
work?
It's you're barefoot traditionally. Sometimes people have feet pain, so they can wear something else, but generally it's barefoot and it's set to music. It's set to generally like a world music kind of sound. But as I'm branching out, as I call it, Nia inspired, I'm making my own playlists and my own choreography and having fun with it. But yes, yeah, the music is a big piece. They call it the music, the movement, and the magic. To get the music and the movement going, then there's this like bubbling up, joyful magic piece that comes from dancing with a bunch of other people.
I really appreciate this because as someone who is not a dancer in any way, shape, or form, I've definitely been hearing how people say getting into your body and just doing the dance. And it's not easy for all of us to do. I definitely was part of a studio and it was not easy for me to just dance. I will say that when I felt my best is a class that almost had this it had a nice structured container for the somatic movements.
Mhm.
So there was a focus, like you said, a little bit of structure, a little bit of instruction. So it wasn't very rigid,
Yes.
but it also wasn't completely free flowing. And it sounds like that's really what Nia is. It provides a little bit of a structure within the container,
Yeah.
almost creating that safety for those of us who aren't really comfortable dancing or even being considered a dancer or a mover. But at
Mhm.
the same time, you're really moving your body in a way that is really targeting your nervous system, your glandular system, and your overall physical health and wellness.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the things I love about it. If you have been to one of these wide open jams or grooves, it can feel very scary, I think, for some people. And I love that Nia does have some choreography. It does have some structure. And there's also an invitation to choose your level that day. So you might be going like this instead of like really being mindful about
Yeah.
what level do you feel like moving at in this moment. Uh,
Does does Nia stand for something?
there's a couple of different things over the years that I believe the most current one is it's a mouthful neuromuscular integrative action. It's also been called non-impact aerobics and different things over the years. So it's been around since early 80s, I think. Yeah. 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 And it was created by someone who was very big in the aerobic world, who her body was breaking down and she just started looking into taking off her shoes and learning yoga and learning different martial arts and being a little kinder to the body. That's the great thing about it too, is you can do it your whole life. I teach a class over at Notre Dame for older folks through the Renaissance Institute. And they're amazing. They're amazing. Yeah. We have so much fun. So it's appropriate for all fitness levels. I've done it. You can do it in a chair. I have done it in a chair because I had a broken ankle for a while. So it's really malleable. It's more about the energy of it and getting some movement.
Talk to
Yeah.
us a little bit about how these modalities can help women in particular as they move through different stages of their life. You've been in practice for a long time, so I'm sure you've seen women from all walks of life, and especially as you talk about some of your elderly. How do you think that these things assist with having a better health span rather than just a lifespan?
Mm, I think each of the modalities that I use, I believe, are creating new energetic pathways. So whether it's a needle opening something, or the sound opening something, or the movement opening something, it's I think as we age, we get into patterns and things stiffen and things get less fluid and less open. And I feel like each of these tools is a reminder for how your body can work with the least amount of ease, with the most amount of ease, the least amount of struggle. Um, I think the dance in particular is really powerful because it's your body's way of moving and creating opening and creating some joy. There's like this bubbling up of remembering yourself in a new way, in a way that feels like it one of the tenets of me is you're always searching for a little more joy. Whether you're coming into class with a lot of sorrow or grief, you're looking for, oh, this movement feels good. And I'm choosing it. And I'm creating more joy by choosing some pleasure in my body. Does that make sense?
I think that's really empowering. So many of the different modalities that we've learned and we talk about, they have physical and energetic effects, like you said, opening up spaces in our bodies. But Nia is us, we're doing it to ourselves. And I think that's very powerful. Now, you also said that one of the tenets of Nia is joy. I think we all could use more joy.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing the other tenets of Nia?
Let's see. There's so many. That's like I always remember that one. That's the very first one. And it's layered. There's belts that you take and you learn these different layers of Nia. And that first one is choose joy. Let's see. That might take me a second to go through my files.
Or can you tell us
And
more about the tenet of joy?
the tenets of joy. Let's see. This is okay to take a big pause.
It is okay. I
Okay.
was just thinking that as we get older, we have, I don't want to say less joy, but there tends to be a lot of responsibility that we're taking on. And you tend to just go into this kind of automatic mode of, especially as women, taking care of other people, elderly parents, launching kids out to college or out into the real world. You're in the thick of your own career. Joy, while we all love it, it's not something like I'm finding for me personally is now I have to seek out how to add joy in because it doesn't just naturally come, boom, here's the joy for the day. And so that I just would like to explore that concept with you a little bit more, particularly how you spoke about that you're choosing this for yourself. And when you speak about it, you just light up. Like I can tell how much joy it brings to you. So
Yeah.
maybe that's an avenue that, we could explore it with you.
It does spark off another tenet, which is making life as art, choosing as you're choosing joy. Maybe it's basically being more present, but also noticing like how do I like my tea or maybe changing something in my room that it is moving the energy that's in your body. If you move your furniture, suddenly you're having a new experience. And usually that's like really fun. I haven't done it forever.
And you
But
tell my husband that because I'm always like, hey, why don't we rearrange the furniture? And he's, what? Like, I can't go out and buy all new stuff. So let's just make it different.
yeah, like making choices that bring you pleasure. And obviously around food we can do that. And visually what we create in our spaces. Like, I'm really loving Trisha's plant and painting back there, and I hope that brings joy when you get into your office. So
What
whether yeah, all the senses, whether it's touch, whether it's another thing we do in Nia is touch with like that's one of the movements. We just like so simple, but this can bring a lot of calming to your nervous system and honoring like a gentle touch for you, just for you, just for this body that this it's another tenet is this is our one relationship is with this container we're walking around with. Like we get to only get one for this life. And how can we deepen that with more care? Yeah, I think that's the joy piece. Like where are the little places that light you up? Because yeah, you gotta go to work and you gotta get your kids dinner and well, there's so much have tos and people are worried about I feel like my list is so long I could go on, but yeah, I feel like that's what keeps me feeling okay is that choice point. There's always a choice in these little tiny ways, creating a space, creating a sensation, hearing something that inspires you. Sometimes I forget that like I could turn on some music that's just gonna like shift my day. I'm dancing in the kitchen now instead of on my shoulders. And why do I always have to make dinner? Nobody else makes it. You know what I mean? Like that taking these realizing the constrictions that you're creating through your thoughts and choosing whatever it is, the music, a smell, a touch, to remind yourself like, yeah, treat yourself that way. That makes sense.
So I'm curious, especially because you use the word the constrictions, right? That we bring upon ourselves.
Mhm.
Do we work through one of those constrictions during a NIA class? And does the movement help bring like an awareness to a different, lack of a better word, constriction?
Yeah, I think so. As I said, sometimes we'll choose a place in the body, like the center, or the hips, or the shoulders. And we're almost always beginning the class with opening all the joints first in a way that, so maybe everyone's going to be feeling differently, but maybe you've got a tight neck or shoulder or hip or ankle. So it's giving that a little more attention so that the energy can flow more freely. And maybe you have to really be aware of it the whole class. Maybe you have to make different choices so that you feel good in your body. That's the thing, always like moving away from pain and towards pleasure, if that makes sense. But absolutely, in a neoclassic, most of your kinks are going to be worked out simply by this constant movement, the different energies from soft to hard to joyful to heart opening. Like the music also takes you through different energies that open your body. Yeah.
does Nia work through the different meridians specifically? Is that an aspect of it?
It's not something that's built into the literature, the framework of Nia, but because I know meridians, I know yes, 100%, That's the one of the beautiful things too is so much exercise is linear. And in a Nia class, you're gonna be moving every direction, front, back, sides. So you're gonna open and affect all the meridians as well. Yeah. Yeah.
In your bio, it had mentioned moxa. So is not something that I have heard of. I had to Google it before we got on. So tell us about moxa because it seems pretty fascinating, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are probably practitioners who have more knowledge around moxa than I do. I use it. It's mugwort. It's the herb mugwort. And in Chinese medicine, we use it. You can either roll some of this herb, make it into a little cone and light it. I often someone came up with this great idea to have a stick on. So you got your little bit of herb on top of a stick on, and you don't have to worry about it falling off on the person's skin or it burning down too low. Basically, you placing the moxa on an acupuncture point, and it's like lighting a fire before a friend comes over. So it's just like really warming the point. So when the needle comes in, it's got even more chi. So we use it when there's a deficiency or you really want to be adding some energy to the point. I also use warming sticks, which is also moxa, but it's in a stick form and it burns really slowly, doesn't have very much smoke, and I can do an area like the belly or a wrist and I can just really, deeply warm up an area of the body. That makes sense.
So it's really a way to enhance acupuncture
Yes.
to specific things.
Yeah. For anything that's cold or just needs to be moved out a little bit or energized, there's deficiency. Moxa. So moxa is great in the colder months too, because it just is very warming and moving. Warming and moving are the reasons you would use moxa.
You touched on warming and moving for moxa. And where my head went is that you see a lot of people doing cold plunges and cold therapy, which I think has its place. But I'd like to know what your perspective is on that, especially when so many of your modalities really seem to, especially the Nia as well,
Uh-huh.
is all about warming and opening.
It's really funny you're asking about the cold plunge. I just got one and I've had it for 10 days, I think, and I've done it every day. And it probably is very anti Chinese medicine. And they don't ever recommend cold. I wonder how they would view it. And I can only speak to my experience with the cold plunge. I tend to, mood wise, I tend to get low. I think it just sends me into a really alert, like energized, awake place. And it's like the most, actually, I've been thinking about Chinese medicine in that it's like the most yin experience. Like this thing I'm in is black and the water's freezing. And so I don't know how much you know about yin and yang, but yin is dark, it's wet, it's cold. It's and it's where everything arises from. That makes sense. It's like the place where we don't know. It's a place of unknowing, the most yin. So that's well, it feels. It's like everything goes away. Everything feels kind of like I'm starting over from scratch. That's the I've been getting out of it. 10 days in, once the temperature drops even more, you'll see if I'm still doing it. But yeah, but in general, a Chinese medicine person would say, don't put ice on your sprained ankle because the ice can penetrate and cause a stuckness and get stuck in the body. Maybe that's the difference of the cold plunge is you come out and then you're getting a lot of movement post plunge. I usually tell people they do if it's a brand new injury and they're icing it to just always end with the heat, you know, go back and forth.
Being that the Chinese medicine really focuses on the warmth, do you specifically do anything after your cold plunge to help really bring that back in for yourself?
Yeah, so I'm brand new at it. So far, first of all, it's been quite warm. Today was the first day that it was cold outside when I got in, and I did take a hot shower afterwards. But the other days, I just took it off and moved around and got warm clothes on.
What made you decide to start doing cold plunge?
It was a combination of things. A big push was I'm just finishing up a year with working with a coach, and she was encouraging me to do it. She really gets a lot of benefit out of it. And then I started to read about it, and concurrently, one of my siblings has had some traumatic things happen brain-wise and thinking-wise recently. I also have a mom who was bipolar, and I personally have suffered from mental health, and I just suddenly felt really strongly like I love cold water, and why wouldn't I add this in to feel more alive, to feel more awake and energetic? Yeah.
I think that's great that even though you're so focused on these modalities that promote the warmth, you were able to move yourself in a direction to still what felt good for you. And I would almost echo back to the beginning where it's to help bring you back into a balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wondered if you could share what tips that you maybe have for any and all of us that are looking to create more balance.
Think it's a combination. I think another really big tenet that I've added in over the last few years and start crying is the idea of self-compassion. I think it's huge. I think it's huge. We balance is when we're being kind enough to ourselves to notice that we need to pause. Mm. Balance is, yeah, staying in relationship with what hurts in your body and going, hey, I hear you. What do you need? Whether it's your shoulder or your hip or your anxiety or your depression. Yoo-hoo, I'm trying to get your attention. And balance is when we go, hey, I'm listening. What do you need? I think I feel strongly that, yeah, we got to keep moving to find balance. We got to keep the chi moving, our bodies moving. That's what we're alive beings that need to move. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it. Just paying really close attention to yourself and your needs and your own needs in the midst of so many women being caretakers and all the demands. If we don't give ourselves that time, then we're going to tip off balance. Just any clarity in that, but I hope there's some.
I think so many of our listeners will resonate with that. We're all seeking our own balance in our life and listening to the small cues that our physical bodies, our emotional beings nudge us along in one way or another. To your point, paying attention to those things and exploring ways that we can bring ourselves back into that state of balance. Sometimes I wonder if there really is such a thing as balance. It's like a seesaw going up and going down.
That's a good point. There's never like a final destination. It's just a process.
Yeah, it's our life, right?
Equilibrium.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
If clients wanted or if people wanted to get in touch with you or work with you, what is the best way for them to find you and to reach out and work with you?
Best way to would be through the website, bluegreenacupuncture.com. You can see a list of all the practitioners here, but I'm on there and my contact info, email, phone, and everything is right there.
All right. Are you on socials?
I am. I'm Nia and Needles on Instagram.
Love it.
Sure. Facebook is just Rebecca Donnelly.
Okay. We will make sure that those all go in our show notes so people can find you.
Okay.
Rebecca, one last question. If someone is not local to you in Baltimore and wants to experience Nia, how could they find, or is there a specific
Yeah.
way that they could find a local
That's
place
a
to them that
question.
offers Nia?
There's I don't wanna misdirect because I think they changed their name. There's Nia Fitness. I think I have that where you can go and do classes online with someone, but then there's also find a teacher button is on there. There's also it used to be called nianow.com, and I know you could find a teacher through that. But yeah, there's teachers all over the world, so
All right. Thank you so much. We'll do a little research and follow up and make sure we put some links in. So if people are
yeah,
not
maybe
in
we'll
Maryland,
that's
that they
right.
can find a NIA class and they can get out and get flowing.
Cool. Love to see you guys too. But thank you so much. It was first time I've done something like this, so I appreciate what you're doing and your good listening skills. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend.
Want to learn more about a specific topic? Follow and drop us a line on Instagram so we can explore it more with you.